Good afternoon. It's 8 p.m. here in Finland and we are ready to start. Please note that this webinar is being recorded, and if you want to have live captions, please put the live captions on your settings so it might be easier to follow. And we have really interesting topic today. Upper body. How to train upper body. Building a champion's physique. And I must say that I'm really happy to have you here in our webinar. Over 80 has already joined, and let's see how many of you gonna be here online, but still you can watch this as a recording as well. But welcome to everybody. First, let me introduce myself. My name is Ville Isola. I'm from Finland, and I'm director of IFBB Nordic Academy. And also I'm the Secretary General of the IFBB Coaches Commission. And I have been studying fitness athletes and bodybuilders since 2016. And I'm doing my PhD studies in University of Jyväskylä. And I'm gonna be doctor next year. But that's enough about me. I wanna hear, where are you from? Please write in the chat. Where are you from? And we then get a little bit understanding that where all the people are coming from. Ukraine, nice. Sweden, Portugal, Estonia, Brazil, Finland, really nice. Really nice. Okay, and please. Let's go to this webinar's topic. Our objective today is to look how to build a champion's physique, which requires dedication, knowledge, and the right training techniques. And this webinar focuses on advanced techniques for upper body hypertrophy and based on the latest research and experts' insights. And during this webinar, if you have any questions, please write them in the chat. And we will have the own section for the Q&A at the end of this webinar. I hope you enjoy and learn something new today. And here is our agenda. First, a few words about the latest news in the IFBB Nordic Academy, and then we look a little bit the basics of exercise physiology, and then we dive into the chest training, and back training and shoulder training, and then we have time for your questions. But please share your webinar experience on social media, tag us, and we will reshare those pictures, videos, and we all can see later on who was participating in this webinar. So feel free to take pictures and post them in social media. First, few words about the IFBB academies around the world. The IFBB Academy, the headquarters is in Spain, and there's own academies in different continents of the world, and almost in every country as well, all own academy. And here in the Nordic region, we have Nordic Academy, and the Finland, Estonia, Norway, Sweden, and Denmark, and Iceland is under the Nordic Academy umbrella. But of course, as you can see, there's people all around the world. You are warmly welcome, of course. And this is just the benefits of nowadays the digital area, that we can share all the same information and be participating in different events all around the world. We in Nordic Academy, we are the leading authority in fitness and bodybuilding education in the Nordic region. And we are the part of the IFBB Academy actions. We have free courses for everybody. Also, we share nutrition and training tips in our social media. We have our own mobile application, and you can use our courses via our mobile application. And we organize monthly these webinars, and next webinar will be in November. And then we're talking about the strategic season shift, how to shift from the recovery phase to development season. That's going to be a really interesting topic as well. And in December, we will talk about the typical pitfalls what athletes overcome during their training. And a few words about our courses in general. We organize the IFBB Master Coach Program, which will start in November. We also have advanced nutrition course and advanced resistance course and resistance training course. And also we organize the IFBB personal trainer course. And these free webinars and other tips. And our latest announcements is that we are now enhancing our learning experience in our courses. For example, we are making our course material even better. Here you can see our future course materials, which will be provided in many forms like PDF, EPUB, flipbook, and live ebook. And these gonna increase the readability, and also I claim that it's much easier to understand those difficult topics with our new learning platform. Also, we increase the learning experience by adding these kind of podcasts like here. Please listen. The IFBB.
That's the International Federation of Bodybuilding and Fitness, their approach to personal training.
Yeah, their approach.
What makes it stand out?
So here is the little bit sneak peek about our course material. And we believe that in future, language will no be longer barrier to your learning, and we will translate our course materials and lectures in English, Swedish, Finnish, Norwegian, Danish, and Estonian as well in near future. And something new is coming for next year, a little bit sneak peek. We will introduce the IFBB Nordic Academy Inner Circle, approximately 10 euros per month subscription model, and you will have 1.5 hour webinars, no marketing, just quality content during those webinars, and you will get the digital certification and bonus material as well. And also the members Q&A sessions with video responses and other additional resources. So stay tuned for details for that, but this is gonna be huge in next year. And this is for whenever you are a fitness enthusiast, athlete, or coach, this is going to be the place where you should be. Okay, now we have had our mandatory promotional speech. Now we start today's topic. First, I want to say that don't be afraid to experiment with the different training techniques and find what works best for you. And what works best for one person may not work for another. So this is really important to understand. This is important whenever there is a nutrition or training. The training program must be personalized for you. And now today, when we are talking about the upper body training, please remember this, that probably that technique doesn't work for you, but it might work your peer or your teammate, for example. First, little bit basics about exercise physiology before we dive in to how to train chest and back and shoulders. Please remember the Henneman size principle. Okay, there's someone who doesn't see any slides. Yes, there is slides. Please close your Teams and open up again. That will help. Does anyone else having problems to see slides? That will help, yeah. Close and join again. Okay, the Henneman principle. What is the Henneman principle? We have muscle fibers in our muscle. Different types of muscle fibers. Type 1 and type 2. And imagine that these muscle fibers are like a team of workers. And when you pick up something like water bottle, your body is smart. It wants to save energy. So it calls on the smallest and weakest workers first, the type 1 workers. And these are the small motor units which have slow twitch fibers, so-called type 1 muscle fibers. And these are great for endurance, but they are not that powerful. And now, as you increase the load or intensity, say you pick up a heavy dumbbell, your body needs more power. So it recruits the larger motor units with fast twitch fibers, which are called type 2, which generates lots more force. And this gradual recruitment saves energy and makes sure that you only use as much force as needed on that specific task. And it's crucial to understand from these type 2 muscle fibers, they can generate more force, but they also have more potential to grow, as even 50% more than these type 1 muscle fibers. And the differences between those are that the load must be sufficient, and only then they start working. And why this is important? This is important in case of hypertrophy training, because we need to have enough load that we recruit all the muscle fibers in our muscle cells. Because if we just use low loads and we do the high reps, we doesn't activate at all those type 2 muscle fibers. And that is not good because they have more potential to grow and they generate more force. Right? Does this make any sense? This Henneman size principle. This is the basic principle about the exercise physiology and about the muscle contraction. Also, one critical principle is this all or none principle. And this tells us how individual muscle fibers work. When muscle fiber is activated by its nerve, it contracts entirely or not at all the muscle fiber. So it's like a light switch on or off, and there's no between. And why I'm telling you this is that we need to engage and activate that muscle. And it could be that that target muscle doesn't activate at all. So it doesn't engage at all. Even we are trying to engage. And we can do some exercise, for example, and we end up the situation that we haven't activated the target muscle at all because there's no sufficient neural control for that muscle. And to summarize these, to what needs to understand before we are going more deeper, today's topic is that, okay, there's two different size of muscle fibers, and we need to use sufficient amount load that they are activating, and also we need to activate the target muscle, because if we don't activate it, it could be the situation that no, for example, we are doing the bicep curl, and if we are swinging, then it could be the situation that the bicep muscle doesn't activate it at all during that exercise. Even we thought that we are doing the bicep. With that said, two other aspects as well, what is good to understand. Muscles comes with a different shape and muscle actions. And this shape, for example, this is a crucial one when we're talking about the different exercises. Let's imagine that here is my chest muscle, and there's because chest muscle is so-called fan-shaped muscle, so the muscle fibers are going in different direction. And if we want to activate and train fully and the most optimal way this chest muscle, we need to do in different angle the chest, and only then we activate all these muscle fiber ways. There's no upper or lower chest to train. You may have heard that when you're doing the incline bench press, then you are activating the upper chest. It is not the separate muscle. No, it's the same muscle. It's only the difference is between that that muscle fiber, does it activate it? And these muscle fibers, because they are like, you imagine the quad muscle. And when it's the highly developed quad muscle, it starts to go in outside of the body when it's a big quad muscle. And like wellness athletes or bodybuilders, you see that when you're looking the leg in front, so upper part of the knee, that muscle starting to go left or right, depending on which left leg it is. So these muscle fibers start to shift the direction. And this is called, there's a fun fact for first date, the pennation angle. So when this pennation angle changes, it starts to affect on that how much force that muscle can generate in different direction. Okay, that is not important today, but just to understand that, okay, we have different shapes, our muscle. Our muscles comes from different shapes, and we should train in from different angles that we totally activate those muscles if we want to fully and optimally grow them. And also there's these different muscle actions: eccentric, isometric, and concentric. Isometric is then when the muscle length doesn't changes at all, but the muscle is activating. It's just like a putting the hand, or let's imagine we are doing the lateral raise. So when the dumbbell is constant here and I don't move my hand or arm at all, now I'm doing isometric work. And while I'm lowering the arm, then I'm doing eccentric work. And when I'm raising my arm, then I'm doing concentric work. And we need all these works and actions to fully activate the muscles and fully grow them in size. Okay, those were the basics about exercise physiology. What is important about chest training? The maximal hypertrophy can be achieved only by systematically varying exercise performed and fully working all aspects of targeted muscular muscles, and varying the angles and planes using both multi-joint and single joint exercise. And also what is important is considering the torque angle and modality. And first, understand the origin and insertion of targeted muscle. Like here in the picture, you can see the chest muscle, the pectoralis major, the primary muscle of the chest. What is the chest, the pectoralis major action? And it's critical to understand. And the black and white example is that the chest, the pectoralis action is to move your hand in this direction. So what are these planes and angles and what those mean? To fully train your chest, you should include exercise in the frontal sagittal, and transverse planes. And what this means. First, here is the frontal plane, and this is not airplane. This means this is a biomechanics, but we can imagine our body, and we can categorize our body left and right uh, part of the body. Then we are talking about the frontal, or we can categorize our body back and front, back and front. Then we are talking about the sagittal plane. Or in transverse plane, we can categorize in our body, upper body and the lower body. So we should make our chest training in that way that we are using all of these planes. And like frontal plane, the flies, cross body cable movements are frontal plane, or sagittal plane, presses, push-ups, and transverse plane. It's just cable chest flies coming up, down, coming here up to down to when our hands are going in front of our lower body. Then we are doing in sagittal, the transverse plane. All of those angles you should include in optimal chest training and those planes. And also about the angles, here you can see the different angles of the bench. You should vary and use all of them. But of course, what you want to train at most, you should use at most that angle. For example, if you're thinking that you need more muscle in the upper chest than lower chest part, then you should do more in incline all of your movements. Then it's activate the muscle fibers in that direction that your upper chest will increase in size. And also vary hand spacing, for example, in barbell, to change the muscle activation. So to summarize, vary planes, angles, and hand spacing, and then you are ensuring that all muscle fibers are stimulated. And this approach helps avoid the plateaus and keeps your training balanced, leading to more comprehensive hypertrophy and better strength gains. And also use both multi-joint and single joint exercises. While these multi-joint exercises, like a bench press, they allow heavier loads, and these single joint exercises provides greater isolation for the target muscle, and combine both types of these optimal results. And speaking of different machines or free weights, and that's a typical question. Should I use free weights or machines? Which one is better? There was a good study conducted last year, the review study, which shows that it doesn't matter which one you are using. Either you are using free weights or machines. You can, in both ways, you can optimally grow your muscles. So it's highly depending on your individual preferences, which you want to use. So use them. And lastly, about the chest training, Barbell and dumbbell exercise heavily load the pectoralis major in the early phase of the movement, like here at the beginning, while cable pulleys and machines allow more constant tension during the whole exercise. So employ a variety of modalities for optimal results. And I prefer using cables always first for activation and also the warm-up for the chest training. And you can consider using bands and chains if you want to balance out the strength curve, for example. And here is my recommendation for the basic chest training. You start with the cable fly, then you are doing the big movement, the barbell or dumbbell bench press, and then Smith incline bench press, and after that the pec deck or dumbbell flies. And if you need even more, then you can do the chest press machine or something like that. That is a comprehensive chest training program. Any question regarding chest training? Please, if you have, now it's the time. You can write in the chat. No questions? Okay, let's shift to back hypertrophy. What is important about the back hypertrophy? The maximal hypertrophy can be achieved only by systematically varying exercise performed and fully working all aspects of the targeted muscular. And training in all three planes of movement is also here crucial, and targeting specific muscle groups. And here, what is important is to understand that what is really the back muscle. Because I claim that not everybody knows that, for example, these are different muscles. This latissimus dorsi muscle here, and for example, the teres major, and then there is the trapezius muscle, and different parts of the trapezius muscle, and under that is the rhomboid muscle. So when we are talking about the optimally trained back, then we need to take consideration all of these muscles, and we should plan our training plan in that fashion that it take account all of these muscles and those muscles actions. Of course, the most of the training should be the latissimus dorsi because it's the biggest muscle in the back. But for example, if you want to have that kind of 3D visual for the back, so you need size in sagittal plane, back and front, then the highly developed trapezius is the muscle which is doing that visual of thick back. And if you want to widen the back, then you need to have highly developed latissimus dorsi. But that is also a typical question, that is there so-called exercise which are widen the back or adding the thickness to the back. I don't think that you should even ask that question. That is a wrong question. Okay, there's a question about, do I have some good videos of using bands in the chest training, and why is it exactly beneficial? Good question. I will answer that on later on. But about the back training, like, understand these different muscles. And of course, there's individual differences. For example, with some individual have more widen the trapezius than other, or someone have the trapezius muscle the smaller than the other. So of course these individual preferences also affects if we want to have fully development muscle, and when we are talking about the fitness and bodybuilding sports. About the back training, focus on the frontal and sagittal planes, and for example, what are the example exercise for those? For frontal plane exercise, wide grip lat pull down, excellent exercise. Or sagittal plane exercise, seated cable row. And the typical mistake, for example, about the seated row is that you are leaning backwards and you are doing most of the work with your trapezius and even with the biceps. If you are leaning back in cable row, sorry, leaning back here, typically doing the seated row here. Actually, if you want to emphasize the activation of latissimus dorsi muscle, then you should lean front and you should have this kind of position. The good rule of thumb is that your deltoids should be in front of your butt if you are looking from the side, that trainee. So then you can be sure that the latissimus dorsi muscle is activated. And using different grips, for example, affects a little bit from that which muscle is activated during the back training. And actually, from here, one muscle is missing, is that posterior deltoid, back deltoid muscle. That is also typical, which is activated during the muscle exercise, the back exercises. My foundational idea about the back training is always that you should emphasize that latissimus dorsi muscle, and that is your primary aim, because typically these trapezius muscles and rhomboids muscle, they are typically activated enough during the back training session. Even you are so-called emphasizing the latissimus dorsi movement. So what this means in practice, just like that, I always recommend doing the seated cable row, leaning front, leaning not back, because when you are leaning back and you are doing the seated row, latissimus dorsi muscle doesn't activate as much as doing in leaning forward. And the latissimus dorsi is maximally stimulated by the humeral adduction in frontal plane. I know this might sound a little bit hebria, for example, or something that what the hell Ville is talking about. But this humeral adduction in frontal plane happens best way in wide grip pull-up movement. And what is also important, where you put your hands and your elbows when you are doing the movement. I always recommend, like doing the pull-up, you should aim your elbows to your tailbone. When they're going in the tailbone, in close to your body, then you can be sure that the latissimus dorsi muscle is activated the best. And also the pronated grip is typically the best one. Doing here the front pull up or pull down, the latissimus dorsi muscle is activated the most typically. Of course, there's individual preferences, but in general, and that is good place to start. And then when we are talking about the mid-back muscles, then we are talking about the trapezius and the muscles underneath the rhomboids. And if you want to emphasize those in your back training, then you should have sagittal plane exercises like dumbbell row. Dumbbell row is a good movement for that. And here is an example of back training. And please note, here is deadlift as well. And this, you can use deadlift also for hamstring movement as well. But I typically use it as a back exercise. And I like to start with the lat pull down. And there's typically 2 to 3 exercises for the latissimus dorsi and 1 or 2 at most for the mid-back muscles like trapezius. And typically that's about it. So that's a good basic workout for the back muscle. Any question regarding the back? And about these planes and angles, to optimally train back and develop back, you should pull from every direction as possible in your workout training plan to optimally grow your back muscles and especially for the latissimus dorsi muscle. But of course, if we try to do in different angles in one workout, it will take 2 hours or more, so that is not wise. And that's why you need to periodize the different exercises and you shift 1 or 2 exercises like in every 3 months, so you make variance your workout plan for every 2 or every 3 months. Also, that gives nice variance, and it is good to do those, and the adherence is typically better when there's a little bit variance in the training. But like training chest and any other muscle groups, use sufficient load that you will activate those type 2 muscle fibers as well. Because if you're only doing with the light loads and high reps, you miss lots of potential for your muscles to grow. Okay, next, what is critical about the shoulder training? Shoulder training, maximal hypertrophy can be achieved only by systematically varying the exercise performed and fully working all aspects of the targeted muscles. And these are the same text here, like in back and chest, like I think you already noticed. But the same basics and the laws, of course, it is regarding the deltoid muscles as well. Train all 3 heads of the deltoids and targeting specific muscle fibers. But before going into the deltoid muscle in more specific, please know that you need to understand these infraspinatus muscle, teres minor muscle as well, and also supraspinatus muscle here. And the supraspinatus muscle, which is here at the side, as you can see, this is a small muscle, weak muscle, but this is one of the most typical muscle which is causing the shoulder pain for our athletes. They are experiencing pain doing the dumbbell press, and they are thinking about, oh, my shoulder is broken. No, it's typically because that supraspinatus muscle is weak and small, so you should have a recovery training for the supraspinatus. And how you can train that supraspinatus muscle, putting your hands like this and taking like dumbbells here, like here, and then you're doing the lateral raise in this fashion, that straight to the side, and with your thumbs up even here like this, then the supraspinatus muscle is doing the work. So because I want to emphasize these typical 3 mistakes what happens regarding the shoulder training, because these are causing the most of the problems with our athletes in regarding the training. The first mistake typically in shoulder press, improper elbow position, for example. Do not try to flare your elbows for too much in the back. No, there should be somewhere there which feels normal to you, like doing the shoulder press. Do not trying to put your elbows here, because then the infraspinatus muscle start to doing most of the work, and that infraspinatus muscle is also a small muscle and it's weak, and when the infraspinatus muscle is overtrained, it will start causing pain in your shoulders. The second mistake when performing typical lateral raise with the dumbbell, many people initiate the movement, like doing too quick. You're using too fast movement, or in other words, you are using too much load, the too big dumbbells in your lateral raise exercise. Because if you are using too much, then you initiate the movement with supraspinatus muscle here, and that supraspinatus muscle gets overtrained and it will start causing problems. Typical problem with our athletes. So how to avoid? Use lighter weight with the lateral raise. And the third mistake, like overhead movements, doing the overhead dumbbell press here. The teres major muscle or minor muscle. Sorry, the minor, there's typo over there. Start to make the movement. And for example, if you are arching your back too much, then typically that movement goes your chest, not delts. So please take these account in your shoulder training. Okay, now we are talking about the shoulder, the side delt, 3 parts of the delt, side, and also the posterior, which is back, and anterior, which is front. And one excellent cue for the lateral raise is that your little finger, you should try to aim with your little finger at first. Here's the camera. Little finger at first when you're doing the side lateral raise with your dumbbells. And that is a good tip, and that will engage your side lateral muscles more. And here you can see the typical and my recommendation for the typical shoulder training and shoulder workout. And about those targeted muscle fibers for the anterior head, front dumbbell raise or gable raise, middle head, so the side here, dumbbell lateral raise or gable. And also understand that with doing the dumbbell lateral raise in this beginning of the movement, your shoulder doesn't need to do work at all to keep that dumbbell in that start position. Only when you start lift and when you start raise your hand, then the side delt start to engage force. But doing the side lateral raise, like here, you are engaging all the time the side delt, because keeping in that position, it takes, you need to generate force here and keeping that hand straight forward, because there's a gable where the resistance is coming from. So understanding this, you can take that force curve account, and you should take that account as well, at least in that fashion, that if you don't have side lateral raise in your workout plan at all, and you are only doing the side lateral raise with the with the dumbbell and standing, then there could be the situation that you miss a huge part of the deltoid training and deltoid growth, because your deltoid doesn't need to work or generate force then when it's the full length. And I'm not going on that topic because that is another topic in overall, that lengthening training. So to summarize this, what we have talked today, that use variety of training protocols, supersets, drop sets, traditional sets, and consider using pre-exhaustion or post-exhaustion techniques as well. Adjust training variables based on individual needs and goals like volume and exercise order and so on and so on. And in general, aim to reach near failure while balancing rest for maximum hypertrophic outcomes. And once in a while, it's wise to deload as well. And about this tempo and range of motion, use repetition tempo for 2 to 8 seconds, but not longer than 10 seconds should one repetition last. Because if it's last more than 10 seconds, then you don't use sufficient load. And the general recommendation is that always use full range of motion. And doing that lengthening partials, for example, can be good special technique, but the latest research is concluding that it is not more beneficial to do the lengthened partials than the full ROM movements. Yes, and good question about, is there some number of reps to activate delt muscles? And the straight answer for that is it depends on the individual, but typically delt muscles need a little bit more reps than other muscles. And they typically like more reps. Like I generally recommend doing 12 to 15 reps in deltoid movement because they generally have more type 1 muscle fibers. And conclude, and really good question, Daniel. I will answer that in a few minutes. So to conclude, build a champion physique requires multi-phased approach. Understand the muscles in first. What muscle you really want to grow and develop. And like that back, it is more than just this latissimus dorsi. Use variety of exercises, angles, and planes to target all muscle fibers. Structure your training program to maximize hypertrophy and manage the fatigue. And stay updated on the latest research and expert insights. And always prioritize the proper form and technique. Listen to your body and avoid overtraining. And be patient and consistent with your training and track your training, ladies and gentlemen, because only by tracking you can see that are you actually developing and are the volume, does it increase over time, because it should increase. And that is the basic about the muscle hypertrophy, the volume load, the work you have done should increase in over time. So, those questions. Now is the time. Please, if you have more, please write. I'm a little bit overdue our time, but I have time and hopefully you as well. And I don't mind if you need to go away. You can see this end from recording. But did something important get left unsaid? And sorry, there's typo from our last webinar. But if there's something questions about this chest, back, or shoulder training, please, now is the time. So here's the one question: what about the incline bench cable lateral raise or lying in U raises for that matter? The resistance profile should be even better in those cases. Yes, exactly. And you mean that for that case that the deltoid muscle is activated also at the beginning with that? Yes, and I typically recommend doing for that you are laying down in against from the incline bench, and there you are doing with the cables or side lateral raise, really good exercise. And all of those, you should use that cable in different ways. Cable is one of the best method for training delts. And I hope I answered your question. Okay, do you have some good video of using bands of chest training, and why is it exactly beneficial, and what should be the resistance of bands? Okay, really good question. And about those bands, I don't recall any good video from now on, but I can try to find and I send you. But in generally, that modifying the strength curve or force curve in training in overall and like in chest training, it's more important in powerlifting, for example, that if the individual has problems to at the beginning of the movement here when the barbell is touching chest, and there if the individual has the weak movement, but when the individual manage to get that barbell move, then he can handle the rest of the movement. So if that is the weakest part of his or her movement of the bench press, by using chains or resistance band, he can emphasize in training in that part. For example, making and putting the resistance bands in that fashion that it will increase the load here at the beginning of chest training. And talking about the chest training in overall and using bands, just like if you put the resistance band in barbell and floor, then it happens in that way that when you when you are lifting the barbell, the resistance band also widens up, so it will increase the movement as well when you lift, so you can emphasize in that part of the bench press, for example. So does it have any effect of muscle hypertrophy training? Not at least indirectly, but that can give nice variance of training. And of course, adding the resistance bands in the barbell that will initiate more triceps during that movement. And that is why and how you can use the chains or resistance bands. Or if you are putting the resistance bands in the barbell and in the floor, the roof, and then when you are raising the barbell, it gets easier and easier because the band is also going smaller and smaller. But still, I recommend to just try. That give a little spice to regular or normal training as well. A little bit modifying that normal strength or force curve of the different movements. Okay, but if you want to learn more about this strength training, we will start our specific course in November and only 399 euros. In one weekend, we will talk all about resistance training, and after that, we will have 2 evenings to rehearse and make those topics which were difficult. So I really recommend this if you want to learn more comprehensively about resistance training than the personal trainer course have given. And of course, our master coach program, the first in the world, will start in November. And I really recommend this if you are interested of coaching top level athlete in future, in international level. And this is the program which consists all 5 intense weekends and also pre-recorded material and over 1,000 pages of course material and so on and so on. This is going to be a really nice journey to mastery. Okay, and here you can see our upcoming courses as well, our personal trainer course and our next nutrition course. But now I'm a little bit over my time, but I want to thank you for your attention and really good questions. I hope you get something new from this. And please give us feedback that we can enhance this webinar even more and make this even better. And all the feedback, I thank you in beforehand also, but I hope you enjoyed, and I hope I will see you in next webinar at least in November. And those who are coming in the Santa Susana in November in IFBB Coaches Congress, we will see you there in real life as well. But now have a nice night, and let's keep in touch, and we will see you next time. This webinar is over. Thank you. Bye.